How are we doing? Hope everything's okay in your part of the world. I haven't really been filming, interesting videos lately. I've kind of been working on some larger projects. The camera tends to make things smaller than they are, but that's a full-sized 5-gallon bucket. So this is an enormous slab. I think these are something like 12 inches. These logs are about 32 inches tall, if I remember correctly, and it's probably 9'6". It's made for stacking buckets, and it's not done yet. I still have to fasten it here. Let me get a better focus. Maple. Remember, it was that big log that was out where I milled that little log? Yes, I milled this freehand. Struck lines. I struck a line on one side of the log, made a shallow cut, flipped the log over, did the same thing on the other side, and then flipped it again, laid it horizontally, and then connected the 2 points. Not the best method, and believe it or not, I used this little chainsaw to do it. But I'm thinking about switching brands. This is an MS-170, and I love it ergonomically, but in terms of use, it's just not reliable. It keeps having problems, and I just can't afford to waste the time. I think I'm going to give a Husqvarna a shot. Something small like this, though. Yeah, that big log I used this little chainsaw for. I'm really starting to question conventional wisdom on chainsaws. I really think that big chainsaws are... It's just a marketing gimmick that guys fall for. You just don't need a large chainsaw. You don't need a large bar. They just don't apply for prolonged hours of work. If you're sitting there making slices in an 18-inch log, then it's nice to have a big chainsaw. But for actually using them for crafting things and milling and pruning and limbing and lugging it around in the back of an ATV, if you can't hold your chainsaw out like this, it's too big for you. So, I would like to hear your recommendations on a chainsaw, but don't try to convince me that I should use a larger one. I want something that has more agility. But I'm interested to hear what you have to say. Also, I used a 30-degree chain, and I have no experience with a ripping chain. And I'm wondering, in terms of freehand cutting or freehand milling, if a ripping chain would be better suited, because when you practice enough, you really get good at using it this way to kind of smooth the surface down. I'm not proud of this particular surface, but this is a utility thing. If I take my time on it, I can do a little bit better than this. Also note that as it dries, the wood's going to change anyways, and so it's going to have to be planed if you're ever going to use it for something that you really care about. But that probably won't be the case. This will probably be in this configuration long after I'm gone. Another cool thing, it came with the house. It was this ugly old picnic table that, if you look at old videos, you might see it over there in the middle of the garage somewhere with a bunch of stuff all over it. So look at this wood. This is after it went through the planer, but when I first found it, it just looked like an ugly old piece of treated wood, and I was ready to rip it apart and burn it. And look what it did after some polyurethane and epoxy treatment. At first I thought it was cedar, but it doesn't really have the smell, so I'm reasonably convinced that it's redwood. I'm turning it into a sort of laundry table for down in the basement. I'm not going to put this outside. We don't really have redwood around here, so it's a pretty rare thing. I plugged all the old nail holes, and I love how it looks all rusty like that. And it has these weird sort of bird's eye things. And yeah, that's epoxy. I put epoxy in the knots. I wanted it to look rough but at the same time new. A couple other major projects, rebuilding the planer and putting a proper deck on it, replace the blades. Knives, sorry, don't want to make that mistake on the internet again. And, or you can't see because of the glare, but the grill, I completely rebuilt the grill, and I made a video about that, so you'll see that shortly. But yesterday was midsummer, so it's beautiful out. It's simply amazing here. We're talking about Pennsylvania in mid-July, which is just awesome. There's an entire family of bluebirds over there in one of the boxes. If you've never seen that video, that's kind of an underrated video of mine. It was how to make a bluebird box. We have one there, and one there, and one there, and one there, but the only one that really gets any action is the one on the grape trellis, and here I'll show you. And it really does get a lot of action. They are in and out of that box non-stop. And then once the family grows up, they just stay in this meadow. They don't go anywhere else. I don't know where they are. Maybe you'll spot them somewhere, but there's a family of 5 bluebirds that just kind of circle around the area with this as their locus. Also, in case you haven't seen this video, go watch it. It's so simple, but it's a good video. And finally I can stop hiding those things. Just, you know, filming around this place, I always have to be careful that I don't spoil upcoming projects, because some of them take years to get to. And these things, we've been using them for years. And I'm trying to not allow people to see something like that. Or else the... Oh look, here comes one. Did you see him? If we're quiet, he'll come and feed even though we're here. Pay no attention to the design of that bird feeder in the background. You're not supposed to notice that yet. Okay, I'll see you another time. Go ahead, click the video. It's a good video. Come on, last chance. Click it. Go.